Matt, how would you reflect back on Tuesday night as you prepare and plan ahead for this game on Saturday?
Sat now here, really happy with the point. Great character. Obviously, really pleased for Hamish on his debut, getting the equaliser. Disappointed in some aspects of the game, obviously, but I think even when we've won games, I've kind of been of the same mindset. There's always things you can do better. There's always things you can improve upon. I felt like we were a little bit too passive sometimes in possession and not ruthless enough. Not putting enough balls into the box, not playing forward probably quick enough. However, I thought the last 20-25 minutes we did that, and we arguably could have won the game. Would it have been probably fair? Probably not, if I'm going to be honest. But at the same time, it was a game that we could have probably nicked another goal, and if Sharif said it had gone in last minute, obviously be sat here and even happier, man.
As you try and sort of build this team up and develop something here, is actually a result like that, even though you haven't won, coming from 2-0 down to make sure you don't lose, is that something that can be quite important for you?
Massive, yeah, because we've done a few of these interviews now, haven't we? These pre-game interviews, and I've spoke about the characteristics of the team and how we're a young team and the things we're trying to implement and grow on, and that is one of them. That not everything's going to go right in a game of football, and we have to make sure that as a group we collectively stick together. I think the changing room's been big for that. I think there's been times where things have gone against us, and you know, I also appreciate the fact sometimes when you're at home and you are 2-0 down, the fans kind of turn a little bit. Like, look, it's nothing we've not experienced and nothing that some players haven't experienced before, but I think that they showed that togetherness, that drive. Got a bit of luck, obviously, with the first goal, but then from that point, I just felt like we're on the front foot. The fans got real behind the lads, and I kind of said that after the game. It's crucial to stick with the lads in good times and bad times, and at 2-0 down other night, it was bad.
You were once a young footballer who was thrust into action very early in your career. Does that help you when you're dealing with young players like Hamish, for example, who are suddenly, because of injury issues, being put in the spotlight?
Yeah, I think, look, unless you are a bit of a childhood prodigy, generally you need a bit of luck to get an opportunity, and then it's up to you how you do with that opportunity. And I think that I was fortunate probably when I was that age that things at the club weren't as good as there was, and you get opportunity, but you still have to be good enough to take that chance. And I feel like Hamish kind of did that the other night, but at the same time, I'm well aware that all the things can hit a young player 4, 5, 6 games into that stint. So the first few games you kind of ride on crest of a wave, and then it becomes normal, and then everything hits you, physically, mentally. Hence why you see a lot of managers take younger players in and out. So there'll be things where we can help him. However, as always, with any shirt we have here, if he keeps playing well, he'll stay in the team. We've got good players coming back into it. He's a good player himself, Hamish, but it'll be down to him.
How challenging is it at the moment with so many players? You've mentioned in recent interviews that certain players should only really be playing X amount. You're asking a lot of these players because the games are so often, and you might not get a break for the international break if that Luton game goes ahead. Just how challenging is that for you to manage this group at the moment?
It's quite difficult, but at the same time enjoyable, oddly. You look forward to match days, you look forward to pitting your wits against other coaches. I'm more than happy with my group of players I've got. I know whichever one of them pulls that shirt on knows what it means to represent the club. I know that they'll be going to the 95th, 96th minute, and that means the world to me. Like, we're not always going to have a free-flowing game of football. We're not always going to win 5-6-0 as we haven't done yet so far. So everything we have will be hard work and determination and people hanging on in there. But look, with regards to the minutes, I can't sit here and say I wouldn't have changed a lot more than I have done these last 3 games, because I would have. I ain't had the luxury of doing that, but like I said, the lads are going with it. The lads are working the damned hardest, and as a manager and as this football club, like, I know that to most people seem as a requirement that should be given, but we've seen up and down the country sometimes you don't get that, but that is one thing that we have in spadefuls here.
How do you review injuries when a lot happen, and a lot are happening consistently? What does a manager do in a situation like that? Do you kind of review everything? Do you see how you can do things differently? Do you chalk it down to bad luck? You know, what is the mindset?
I think that happens weekly, even if you do or you don't have that. So I think if I sat down with you at the start of my coaching journey, it's totally different from then till it is at the end of it, in the middle of it still. I feel like when we were here last time, we changed quite a lot. We had to manipulate things while we were here. We did when we moved clubs. So it's something that just happens. Sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. I've spoken openly that we had to train a little bit harder. I'm not going to apologise for training harder because I think you have to. But it's probably how we've trained, when we train, what that looks like. You're always going to get injuries. I don't think anybody up and down the country has not had any injuries. I just think we've probably had a few more, but at the same time, some of those have been previous injuries that might have happened even if we did have this, well, it doesn't exist, this perfect scenario. So we always work to try and be the best version of ourselves. We're still in the process of doing that. We're still having a process of understanding the new staff, understanding the new players. I know people go, well, you've had a few months now, but it takes a while, and I think the consistent form that we've had has shown that the messaging and the things we've just spoken about psychologically coming from behind is starting to show.
Typically, how long should it take to develop a young player, do you think? I mean, if you were going to talk about ideal world, which I know you don't get in football, how much time should you be able to work with a player before you can say, right, we've had a good go to judge this player now?
Oh, real good question. I think that it's difficult to know because of individual circumstances. I mean, it's a lot bigger question than me, but you have an under 18s, you have an under 21s now. I think that might get stripped back to a 17s and 19s. So I think it's somewhere in between that period. Generally, I think come like 19, 20, they're around the ages that you start looking, thinking, can it be a constant piece of this jigsaw? I think certainly at 17, 18, unless they're outstanding, you might drip them in and out. The good thing that we have being in League One is the Virtual Trophy, which gives me an opportunity to pit younger players against senior pros, and you don't always have that luxury in League One games. So there's loads of ways and means you can do around it, but I think once you start getting towards those ages, if you're not kind of in and around it, then you see people go away, don't you, and go back to non-league. But I just think that the net now is that wide in academy football that not many slip through it.
Finally, do you think it actually should be acknowledged that even during this good run you've had to deal with injuries? It's not as if you were super healthy and everyone was 100% when you were winning games and you maintained that unbeaten league record, obviously in midweek. So when you look at some teams, without naming other teams, there are other sides that have lost players, sold players, got injuries. Teams that you'd expect to be right up there who are doing a lot worse than Rotherham United. Is that actually something that is worth pointing out a little bit here?
I think so. I don't think that's for me to do that. I think that we want to win as many games as we can. I want to win games of football. I've said openly at the start of the season we weren't where I'd have expected us to be, but at the same time I expected certain things to happen. I know that's difficult sometimes as a fan to hear, but I've always said I want to be open and transparent, and we're in the process of developing. We're in a good run of vein of form, but you're right. You could argue we've probably not had everybody fit and fresh and ready. I think the only game I'd probably say we kind of roughly had a little bit of that with Barnsley when I had opportunity of bringing good players on the pitch. Not that my other players I'm not bringing in, but I've got players who are ready to go. I think in recent weeks we've had lads who, even when I'm putting them on, I've got everything crossed that something doesn't happen to them because the science suggests that something could, and that's been the tough bit for me. But yeah, the fact that the lads have come together, I think should be celebrated. Like the last 20 minutes the other night, and I thought first half we did a lot of good things without ending with a lot. We had a 20-minute period second half where we weren't amazing, but then the fight back that the team showed, I think that should be commended by the fan base. And I'm asking as manager to get behind the lads in them adverse situations. I'm not saying that they're not loud enough. They certainly are loud enough when they get going, but we just probably need to get going and make the New York that atmosphere. We've had a few away games already, and as an opposition manager, you can feel it, and we felt it quite a few times at home, but I'm asking for more from them, really.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just to clear up where we are with international calls, we know Martha's going away.
Yeah.
Lenny Barry.
Not been called up as of yet. Whether that changes, I don't know. Obviously, he's back to fitness now. I think Scotland, will have been just waiting to see his availability, but I understand why they haven't put him in the squad at minute.
Yeah, and
whether that changes now that Sim is fit, I can't answer your question.
yeah, and Denzel Hall, are you expecting Jamaica to call?
Again, no idea. I've not heard anything. We've been in contact with Steve McLaren, but no clarification yet.
So at the moment, you're just working on the fact that
the game's on.
You expect
yeah.
to be on. Amos Douglas got all the headlines. Great story, it was lovely for him. But another young lad on the bench, Harrison Duncan, who played the game before and done really well. There were a lot of positive things written about him last year when he came in. He's still only 17. Where is he in his development with you? Where is he a first team contender? Would you see thoughts on that situation?
I like Harrison. I think he's got a real good attitude. He's developing his game all the time, and we're here to make him the best version of himself. And let's see. Look, I'm not going to put unnecessary pressure on any young player. I don't think it's right to say somebody's going to be X, Y, or Z. Harrison will find his own way. He'll find his own path. What he's done so far has impressed me. I think he impressed me early in the season. He then needed to play games. And it's always a difficult one about whether you let him out on loan at that age, but I just felt like him going back to the youth team would have been the right thing. Like we just touched upon earlier, everybody's journey is different, and I felt that were one that would have helped him. So I think the fact that he's gone away, he's played regular youth team football, he then got opportunity in Virtual Trophy of the night and come on and I thought did really well. Speaks volume of the lad's character, and that character will be what makes him succeed.
Raf, so we'll start. Reflections on the Burton result.
Overall, good points, considering the circumstances. I think whenever you go 2-0 down and you come back to 2-2, you take a point and you move on. Ideally, we want to be starting better and winning them games, but you know it's been difficult circumstances the past week or so. So I think overall positive, good result.
As captain, coming back in the fashion that we did, what does that say about the team's character?
I think we've got a brilliant character in there. I think it's took maybe a little bit longer to get it out of some of the boys. Maybe being a little bit timid towards the start of the season, but the character some of the lads are showing at the minute is absolutely brilliant, and you've seen it when we've been coming on second half of games and going really strong, especially towards the end of games. So I think we've got a tremendous character in there, and we need to keep it up.
We talk about that character. Is that something that you put the good run of form down to recently?
I think so, yeah. I think obviously at the start of the season, form weren't fantastic. But, I think once we've kind of turned that corner and been on a good run of form, I think it's so important that we stick to what we're doing and continue that. And, we've got to enjoy the feeling of winning games, and even drawing games the other day in the last minute. You've got to enjoy that feeling and keep it up.
There's been a couple of situations recently, of course, you always want to start well, but we've kind of struggled with that. As someone who's been here for a while, have you noticed a shift in mentality, sort of from going behind and having the fight to get back into it?
Yeah, I think that's something that we needed to work on, even from last season. I think at the start of the season, there was a couple of games where we went behind, and it didn't really feel like we were going to get back into it, and that needs to shift straight away, because we've got a good enough team in there to win a game at any point. So that was important. Whenever we go behind, the game's not done. It's not over till it's over, and I think that's what we've been absolutely brilliant at times.
Of course, and the game against Oldham, the game against Manchester City's under-21s in the Virtue Trophy, and obviously Burton the other day. Because we're on a decent unbeaten run now, does that sort of add to the desire? You sort of go behind and there's no part of the squad that thinks, oh, we're beating here.
Yeah, you've got to have that mentality that you're never out of it. You've got to keep going. I think the only game this season where we've been comfortably beat was Cardiff away, the second game of the season, I think it was. And I think since then, you kind of look at it. I think we've played probably every different style of team, so we know what we're coming up against in terms of every team. We're fully prepared, so it's just about us going out there and doing the business.
Yeah, we've been fairly injury-stricken recently as well, which is no secret. So you've been playing in a bit of a makeshift back line recently. How have you personally found that?
It's part and parcel of football, so you've just got to get on with it. Hamish has come in and been absolutely fantastic. He done really well the other night, and all the lads absolutely buzzing that he scored. I think the funny thing is we all believed in him, and he didn't have the best game in the cup game against Oldham, but we knew we had so much more to give, so we all had massive confidence in him going into the Swindon game, and even JMO dropping down a place we know JMO can play there or wing back. But I think that's one of the biggest things. We've all got confidence in each other at the minute, and so we should, because we're all good players in there.
You mentioned Hamish there. How good was it to see a young pro come through and score his first goal?
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Fantastic for him. Well deserved. You know, he's a threat in both boxes. He's good in our box at clearing with his head, and obviously he's a threat in the opposition box. We've seen him in training. So yeah, he's a brilliant pro. Trains every day. Does the best he can. Wants to be the best he can possibly be. So, you know, he's got a bright future. Looking
ahead to the weekend, Lincoln at home. It's a good opportunity to keep this run going. You know, they're one of the top sides in the division, so it'd certainly be a statement win to turn them over. Yeah, it will be. You know, we just look at it like we look at every other game. Got nothing to fear. We're at home. Great run of form. Good home form. So we go into that with full confidence, hoping to get the 3 points. A few weeks ago, you know, we were looking over his shoulders. You only got to rewind sort of early September, and we were sort of languishing towards the bottom half of the table. Does it feel now like we're, you know, aspirations we're looking up towards the other end of the table now? Yeah, for me, they always have been. We still fully believed. I think the manager said it over and over again. He's done the same things from the start of the season till now. He hasn't changed his ways. He's fully believed in it, and I think as players we fully believed in it, even when things weren't going fantastically well. We fully believed in the manager and each other, and we knew it was only a matter of time before we picked up, so we've just got to make sure that continues. Nice one, perfect.
I remember interviewing you after Northampton, Joe, and you said you might think we're a bit mental, but we're all sat there thinking we can still do something this season. Fast forward 5 weeks, it doesn't seem so mental anymore, does it? You know, top half, could have been top 10 had you won on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think that's what I said, and it's how I felt. You know, I think for me, we sat there. We've only at that point we'd only won twice in the league maybe, and we know that we're capable of achieving something this season. It was about getting all of our so-called best players on the pitch together at one point, and then having a really good solid squad in terms of bench people coming on, and you know you're looking at it now, and you know tables have turned, and we're looking forward.
Yeah. More than one player has told me that you're not someone who's scared to show your emotions in the dressing room after a game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you know I'm quite vocal in there, as you probably know. I think on both sides, if we win and I'm on top of the world, you'll see me dancing. If we lose, and I wouldn't say bottom of the world, because I try not to get too down after a loss, because I don't think it helps, especially right after the game. But you know, whether it's half time, whether it's at the end of the game, you know, I like to be as vocal as I can. Yeah.